let's get into that then. So, talking about now the best realistic Dame package. I know we had a couple prominent team names in here, but I will start with you, Mo. As yeah, Devin already moved you. Who has the best realistic Dame package in your opinion?
So I don't think any one team has one package that is just blows everybody out the water. But if I'm looking at what the Blazers could get back, I'm definitely looking at the Nets. Now, we talk about Ben Simmons. If there's a move for Dame, it's likely going to come at the cost of Ben Simmons as well. Don't know how the Blazers feel about him currently, but I think in order for like salary filler and stuff like that, in order for contracts to match up, because he is getting paid a lot, both of them getting paid a lot. I think that that's something that will happen. Um, Now, in the case of Portland, their direction they just drafted Scoop. They got another young guard that next to him pairs pretty well with him. The only like caveat with this is they did like extend that offer to Jeremy Grant, and I don't know how Jeremy Grant and Ben Simmons would play together just because you got Ben Simmons who not really trying to score that much anymore, and then Jeremy Grant who's gonna be looking to score, but I don't know if he really is that guy that need to be taking as many shots as he's probably going to want to take, and especially with the amount of money that he's going to make, the amount of shots that he's probably going to take, relative to contract. But I think that the Nets have a real avenue to land Damian Lillard. It would involve Ben Simmons. You could also involve a Cam Johnson if you really wanted to. Don't think that they would offer that up. But yeah, the Nets got some real assets. I think that their entire role in this Dame saga up until this point has been largely understated. So do not be surprised if we potentially see, some trade packages with Dame ending up in a Nets uniform.
See, when I saw this question asked on our prompts for this stream, the question said not only who has the best package for Dame, but it also said who has the most realistic package. And so at that point, I feel like the only argument for the Nets is that they've been so buy-in happy since they moved to Brooklyn. So from that perspective, like I guess I kind of get it, and it's like yeah, they do have the assets with Ben Simmons and stuff, but most of these teams, like whoever of y'all picked the Spurs, if you if some of y'all on here, like I'm just sitting here like, is that realistic? Because it's like, yeah, they
Hell
might
no.
have like they might have assets, but like, why would the team who just got the number one pick and is in the middle of a rebuild and a youth movement about to trade for Damian Lillard? For me, I have Philadelphia, and I feel like in most cases it's gonna have to be a three-teamer because Portland isn't gonna want to get like Portland's not gonna be in a situation where they want to get James Harden back, right? But some team might want to take on James Harden, and then that team might have some assets to give to Portland. I think there's a world where like James Harden is an asset and he makes a lot of money. So with that opt-in that he took this year, it's like I think that makes it possible. And I think it compares to like realistic like teams who would want him and have some way that they could possibly make it work. Miami, Tyler Hero is not a good package, especially compared to James Harden. I feel like even though
Mm-mm.
James Harden is older, like James Harden just has more value. So I got Philly personally. Not that I think it can be a direct trade, but when you have to balance out realistic and possible, it's like other teams where it's realistic for Damian Lillard to go. I think Philly has the best way to get a three-teamer done.
I'm rocking with that. And I'm gonna be honest, like I don't really think there's any real realistic trade for Dame. Like at this point, teams know where he wants to be. We know where he wants to be. And a lot of teams aren't trying to take that chance in trading him for their assets just for him to be gone a few years later. But with that said, I think the Nets might have one of the better shots at it. Like Gabe said, honestly, it's going to be tough to do without a three-teamer. And I'm going to be honest, some of the Nets trade packages that at least that I've seen, almost all of them include Ben Simmons. And if Portland wants Ben Simmons, that's gonna be insane. And I feel like Ben Simmons, they throw him in there to make the money match. But regardless, it's still kind of crazy. With the 76ers, it's a thing of like, I don't want to see him there. That's really what it is. Like, I'm big on speaking things into existence. And I don't want to name out a trade package that I think is best and or realistic for them, because it'll mess around and end up happening. And Dame in a 76ers jersey will be the worst thing for me since the Eagles won the Super Bowl and I'm a Cowboys fan. So that's saying a lot. But we all know he's going to the Heatles. Is going to take a 3-team deal. I don't know where Tyler Hero is going because it's not Portland, because they absolutely do not want him. And they've said that. They've made it clear they do not want him. So at this point, it really just, I know this isn't the question, but it comes down to what Portland's going to take, because they're really not going to get best deal or a guy of similar stardom as the things that they've said that they want. You're not getting that, bro. It's not happening. So
the ship has sailed past getting an equal star for Damian Lillard.
You had your opportunity
3 years ago, and
exactly
you waited,
and that's why you're where you're at now. Like Garrett said it in a few streams ago. He listed all the guys that they traded, released, let go, whatever the case is. And they were all guys that are on teams that are either they are contenders now or have been contenders and played for very good teams, playing very good basketball. So ultimately, I personally would like to see him go to the Nets. I think they have the talent to trade him. Probably 3 picks, Day'Ron, Cam Thomas, and like I said, they've thrown in Ben Simmons. I've seen that one somewhere, but it would be dope to me if he's in Brooklyn. I think New York would be jumping, and overall, I think he might like New York. So we'll see what happens with Dame, but I think the Nets they have a good package if they decide to come up off of some players.
All right, so I'm not gonna lie, I would also like Damian Lillard in New York, but that's not the team I really think that could offer the best package for him. So out of the list, we got the Magic, the Nets, the Spurs, Clippers, 76ers, and the Heat. I'm rocking with the Heat. I'm not gonna lie, Tyler Hero shot 37% from 3 on 8 attempts this year. Tyler Hero shot 39% from 3 on 6.7 attempts last year. We know the type of player he is. He's a dynamic shot creator. He can shoot that thing. And in a trade that's involving Damian Lillard, I'm going to have to package Duncan Robinson in there. We saw the impactful player he can be in the playoffs. Everybody always gives him slack about his defense. He held his own in that Miami defense. He held his own. And he's not only a 3-point shooter, he can roll to the rim as well. He showed in the playoffs he can do that against really tough defense. And also in that package, you also have to throw in a couple picks as well. And now when it comes to the Magic, I'm not taking one of your guards, one of your young, unproven guards that I don't see much promise in. Now when it comes to the Clippers, I'm basically getting off salary. You don't have any young assets that I would like to bring in on my young Portland team. Now the 76ers may be a team I want to call. Tyrese Maxey really intrigues me, but Daryl Morey said, don't touch Tyrese. We're not trading him no matter what. Now, when it comes to the Nets have really good pieces as well, but I don't know if I really want to get off of Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson, because those are 2 players that I know Portland is going to want in any Damian Lillard trade. So with that being said, I'm not going to lie. The most realistic one is the Heat. It's the Heat. I'm not going to cut.
You're not wrong. And herein lies the problem with discussing any potential good package and realistic destination for Dame. Is it seems like the only realistic destination is Miami, but their package is ass. And that's the problem. And that's why it's so confusing, and why I've probably switched back and forth between about 3 teams since we decided we were going to debate this. I'm going with Orlando. Orlando's my pick right now. And I think they're probably a year early from the ideal timeline, at least to be buying into a star. But they fit the best combination of realistic and best package for me right now. I know you're not high on them, Jay, but Anthony Black probably has some value somewhere. Wendell Carter might have some value somewhere. Jonathan Isaac comes in as some salary filler. The salary part is probably what makes it the toughest, and that what would probably be the hardest thing to get this deal across the door because Orlando are not paying dudes. But they're in a situation where if they could package Black, Wendell, Jonathan Isaac, like they have pieces that could push the needle to get Dame into their team. They have a ton of picks still. That's not a problem. A Dame, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero trio, even if it's only for a few years, would be absolutely wild. How you then fit the surrounding pieces around them, especially if you're moving off a guy like Wendell when they don't really have another center on the roster, that would be the biggest thing they'd have to figure out. But outside of Miami, I just don't see where he goes right now. So it's such a struggle to pick a team that has a competitive package where you can actually see Dame going. I think Orlando's one of those teams that could be a sleeper team to get into it. But at this point, the team that's probably most likely to be involved in a Dame trade is the Spurs because they're the only team that's actually going to take on money. But at this point, if he doesn't go to Miami, it could be Brooklyn, could be Philly, could be Orlando, could be anyone's guess at this point because it's tough. There's no obvious destination for
him.
All
right, I got something I want y'all opinion on. I got something I want y'all opinion on first. We keep talking about, this might end up being a 3-team trade. Okay, just off the top, let me cook something up. Sixers have a James Harden who wants out. Dame, obviously, he just requested a trade. So we somehow get Miami involved in this. James Harden to Miami, Dame to the Sixers, and then whatever Miami gives up. That would probably be the framework for something that I think could happen. It obviously doesn't end up with Damian Lillard on the Miami Heat as he requested, but I think he'd be happy on the Sixers with next to Joel Embiid. I could be wrong.
Now, let me ask this, and just let me know what you think. Do you genuinely think James Harden will A, fit that culture, and B, as I've seen in like older videos about he and their culture and stuff, they have to run like 10 miles or something crazy. Like they have to, they're required to do like this endurance test type of thing. You think James Harden doing that?
So I ain't gonna lie. I didn't know they had to do all that. Hell no.
Like their culture is really like
not at this point. Not at this point in his career. Maybe if it was Harden, it's like when he got traded to the Rockets, he probably would have been willing to, buy into the coach stuff. But at this point in his career, I don't think he's doing that. So
yeah, even simpler. Let me respond to that 3-teamer as well, real quick. I feel like the simplest way that doesn't happen is just because if Miami is getting involved here, they're getting Damian Lillard. If Dame requests to go to Miami and Miami's involved in this trade, there's no way they aren't getting
Yeah, we accept Harden. Come on.
I think though, like when we're thinking about this, I kind of actually agree with what you said, Devin. And contrary to what you were saying, Gabe, I kind of like the package that the Spurs can give them. I do. Because I'm thinking about, and I bet a lot of people probably aren't paying attention to what even happened today. 3-team trade, sign and trade. Grant Williams goes to Dallas. Mm-hmm. The Spurs got Reggie Bullock. Okay. If you're thinking about it, that's another guy making about $10 million a year, third most on their salary books next year, but he's on their salary books for next year. If you wanted, you got a few guys that are each making more than $10 million a year. In him, Doug McDermott, Devontae Graham, if you wanted to throw in the trade. Now let's talk about the young assets that they might be interested in. I'm not saying all these guys would get traded because that would, trust me, that would kind of be like crazy to give up on everybody. But between the guys of like Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Malachi Branham, Charles Bassey, Blake Wesley, all those guys are on guaranteed deals next year too. All of them are 23 years old or younger. And some of those guys, I think, could have like really good NBA potential. We already seen Keldon Johnson play really well this year. Same thing with Vassell. I was impressed with what Sohan did this year. Same thing with Malachi Branham. That's 4 young players that if you pull any combination of that, and if we're talking about just all the players, all the teams we're looking at right now, I think they have the most draft capital, definitely more than Miami, who is perceived as the favorite. And we've heard rumblings that even though Dame prefers to go to the Heat, he has a lot of respect for the Spurs organization. So keep that in mind. And that's kind of like where I'm going with this, is that personally for me, I don't think Damian Lillard's going to get traded somewhere and be like unprofessional in a way. Like, I don't think he's just going to get traded somewhere and be like, oh, this isn't the Heat, I'm just going to sit out, I'm going to like have my own way or something. That doesn't seem like him. If he gets, no matter where he gets traded, he's going to play, even if it's like the freaking the Pistons or something like that. You know what I mean? He's probably going to lace up, especially a team like San Antonio. You get a chance to play with Wemby, and of those 6 young guys, I can assure you at least 2 of them will still be on the team, maybe 3 of them. You know, and if you can find a way to not have to include one of Vassell or Keldon Johnson, because definitely one of them would have to go out. But if you can do that, and you still have Wemby, and you still have Dame, and you have a lot of draft picks to put in the deal if necessary, and it's realistic in my opinion because of the respect he has for the Spurs organization. So that's personally why I think they have the best package. But I also want to touch on something real quick too that you said earlier, Jay. And you were talking about the Sixers, and I guess like how you weren't so sure about their package in a way. For me personally, I feel like the Sixers are still a very good option to even trade for Dame. It might have to be a 3-team trade too. And the other reason why I gave the Spurs the edge is because, let's face it, it's easier to have 2-way communication than 3-way communication. That's just simply how it is. But also, like, when we're talking about the Sixers, you said if they kind of are holding out with, they don't want to trade Tyrese Maxey, or that's how Daryl Morey sees it. If that was the case, they would have extended him, because then he would have been ineligible to be traded for the whole year. The fact that he didn't get extended means that he's eligible to be traded throughout this year prior to the trade deadline. So if they wanted to make a move today or in a month or 2 months, they could, involving Tyrese Maxey, which if you're sending Damian Lillard to Philadelphia, that's basically 99.9% sure that I'm 99.9% sure that's what it would take to get that deal done. I'd be surprised any other way. But also, like, they're leaving that door open for that possibility as well, I think. So if they wanted to do that, they could. And I just kind of wanted to bring that up, that, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's possible you could go there too. I just feel like the Spurs, in terms of top package and how realistic it still could be because of Dame's interest, maybe not quite as high as Miami, but it's still pretty interesting of a spot for him. I've got to go with the Spurs on my pick.
I definitely like the Spurs pick. I like them to be involved in this deal one way or another, and I think them getting Dame in the end is definitely possible. The quick note I want to make on Maxey, just in the 76ers defense and to play devil's advocate, the other reason they potentially did so is they're going to have like $60 million in cap space next year, and not extending Maxey means they get an extra $17 million of that. So that is another possible reason, but it's definitely possible that he does get moved as well.
So how do we feel? Because I said this, I think I said this to Garrett when we first did our collab a little while back, and I was talking about a trade. Well, it was Marcus Smart. It was a Marcus Smart trade to get him out of Boston because they needed a playmaker. And originally I said Tyrese Halliburton for Jaylen Brown, and then you ship Marcus Smart, whatever you do with him. But what do you think about a signing trade where you sign Jaylen Brown and then you trade him for Dame? Now you pair Dame with Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, those group of guys they got there. And I understand what Jaylen Brown has done. I understand how good he is, how great he is. However, I think we all know the Celtics team, their problem is redundancy when it comes to their skill, when it comes to their team. And, you know, every time they hit that wall, a large point can be made that the redundancy in their talent makes it easier to stop them when it comes to them not hitting their shots. So with that being said, what are we thinking, bro?
You said, so are you saying Jaylen Brown to Portland?
Jaylen Brown to Portland.
Dude, hey, so as far
I know
as
it's a lot of guards. I know it's
as
a lot
far
of
as
guards.
as far as the players involved, because JB can play the 3 pretty easy. Now that would slide Jeremy Grant down to like the 4, which might make things kind of a little weird.
Wasn't
Like,
he a 4 in Detroit?
Yeah.
he could
He was-
he could play
he-
there. I think he's best utilized as a 3, but he could play there. So like it would work. I think my thing is just, dog, that's a lot of money. That
For
is a
sure,
lot.
for sure.
For Jaylen Brown, $300 million within the contract that Jeremy Grant just signed. That some of y'all were calling the worst contract in basketball, bro.
It is a very.
I don't know
bad
exactly.
contract
I don't know
still.
exactly when those contracts would be over, but if that does end up getting in the way of like a Shaden extension in the future, assuming he pans out, a Simons extension, especially now Scoot extension, like, oh, dude, that'd be dirty.
That'll hurt, bro. But
Again.
then here's the thing, though. Say that does happen. Are people gonna backtrack and be like, Dame was right? Because what I'm
Well-
seeing lately right now is a lot, and I understand Dame is pretty much holding them by the balls and saying Miami or bust. And I understand people's points with regard to that and saying like you ridiculed all these teams to go to winning teams. One counter argument to that for me is they were an 8th seed, so let's like, and I know they made it to a championship, but I won't even go there. My whole point is a lot of people are basically, I won't say full on lumping him there, but he's starting to inch closer to that KD side in terms of the things I'm seeing people say about his trade request. So say that does happen, what Gabe just said, where this terrible Jeremy Grant deal, it causes this team to not be able to sign someone. The same way we're talking about the Timberwolves might not be able to sign Cat in the future. Are we going to go back and say, you know, the Trailblazers front office, they really, really did fail Dame. Like Dame had there's no issue with Dame requesting where he was going. But also too, like, who are they going to come off of? Like, which one of their young talent?
As far as who they're gonna come off,
And
of,
that contract
I ain't
ends in 2028, by the way.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. I ain't thought about who they're gonna offload as far as the young talent goes. But to your other point, this does again fall back on the Trailblazers front office for not only the mismanagement of assets, the mismanagement of cap. Because why is Jeremy Grant? Sorry if you can hear it in the background. Why is Jeremy Grant making so much money? I don't think it's a thing where, you know, now they in talks with acquiring Jaylen Brown and then they rescind the contract offer from Jeremy Grant, because now how does that make Jeremy Grant feel? He probably doesn't even want to resign if you take that money away that you just said that you was going to sign away to him. And then on top of that, the Trailblazers still have the problem in Yusuf Nurkic, who they been had to get off their roster and is still on there, and he's still eating up cap. I don't know what his contract details are like right at this moment, but he's been under contract for some time, and he's
Still
been
3 more years, I believe.
Say that again.
Still 3 more years, I believe. He just signed a new 4-year,
fuck is he
70
at?
mil last year.
How?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm
Massive.
It
talking
made
about.
no sense.
Nurkic is making how much money, and he's needed to come off this
It's like
roster.
16 million a
since-
year or something, right?
Yeah,
He's
17.5 a year
been
for the
needed to
next
come off
3.
this roster.
Yeah.
So it falls back on the Portland front office, because what are you doing with all this money? You're re-signing Dame. Okay, that's cool. That's where a large chunk of your money is going. The rest of it is going to Jeremy Grant and Yusuf Nurkic, who's been in and out the lineup in previous years. And then when he is healthy, it's just mid. So I don't listen.
They're combining
Blazers
to
front
make like
office-
60 million a year, basically. Like
the
those
Blazers
two
front
next
office
year.
is fucking terrible. So that's all I really got to say on that. They're fucking terrible.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Steph, I could see that trade happening, low key, and the Portland Trailblazers continue to like try and be competitive. Basically, I mean, yeah, that Jeremy Grant contract is so bad, and considering Dame is leaving now, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded in the next couple of years, but I don't know. But when it comes in terms of that trade, I like it for both teams, me personally. I mean, if you're the Portland Trailblazers, you were looking to pay somebody a huge contract like that, and now you got a younger talent at the wing. He plays some defense, not the dynamic scorer like Dame is, but hey, you got something. But yeah, I can see it happening.
Their top earners next year are Jeremy Grant. I'm fine with Anthony Simons, but Jeremy Grant and Yusuf Nurkic being 2 of their top 3 earners is
fucking
That's-
gross.
Yeah,
Horrible.
It is so gross. It is so gross.
Yo,
Yeah.
and speaking to that, the who was we just talking about? Jaylen Brown. Speaking to the Jaylen Brown point, do we think that Portland is willing to commit?
Oh,
that
it
type of money?
works. Oh my
Oh
God.
shit!
That's what a
Oh
rough
my
package
God.
looks like. That's what
That's a
finance.
trade.
Throw the
Gross.
picks in wherever you want, but financially, that's what it looks like.
That's
That's a
that's
trade.
crazy.
I would say
And I can
Portland
see
wouldn't do
that.
that, but I don't know what they're thinking anymore. So
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
can
say, do
see
we think
it.
the Blazers are really ready to commit that $300 million to Jaylen Brown?
I can see it. They just committed 160 to Jeremy.
yeah,
You
that-
better
yeah,
be
that
able
man.
to be
That
ready to
man.
throw. And I don't. Well, nah, it is 300 because it'll be a signing trade, so they're getting him at the max that he can make.
Max.
But nah, that was a good looking trade. I'm not gonna lie. I won't be surprised if I
Hold
see
on,
that in my
wait.
notifications soon.
Hey,
Just throwing like 2 or 3
picks.
picks.
Cook some shit up.
Hey,